An Afghan commando who was trained by U.S. forces and fought with them against the Taliban is sitting in a Texas jail facing deportation. Abdul Wasi Safi, who was left in Afghanistan after last year's botched withdrawal, tried to cross into the U.S. and seek asylum after an arduous journey where he trekked through South America and Central America, and then he was arrested and charged with a federal crime for illegal entry into the country. So everyone else gets to come in and get a big hug in a hotel or something. This guy who fought with us against the Taliban, he's in a jail. Florida Congressman Mike Waltz, a member of the House Armed Services Committee and decorated former Green Beret, joins us to discuss. Congressman, I want to get to that story, but I do want to talk to the border real quick with you, because the White House keeps pointing the finger at congressional Republicans, saying that, you know, you guys just won't work with them. So is there maybe a way where you can get out there together collectively and say, here's our plan, we have a plan, let's go? Because they're trying to use you guys as the scapegoat.
Well, that's what the Biden White House is so good at, right? I mean, they just blame everyone for everything instead of taking any responsibility. Look, we have a plan, Sean. We have the outlines of it in the Commitment to America that Kevin McCarthy laid out before the midterms. But yeah, the bottom line is it's the sequencing. You have to secure the border first before you can begin talking any other types of reforms, because otherwise 2, 3, 4 years from now, you're going to find yourself right back in the same position. And so, I mean, the plans that the Trump administration had in place that Biden refuses to adopt, the Remain in Mexico policy, the actually building the wall and securing the border, beefing up ICE and CBP, and really reforming some of our asylum claims and holding the Mexican government accountable. I mean, we have video after video of the Mexican authorities basically putting these people on a bus at their southern border and shipping them all the way north to ours. Under President Trump, we had 25,000 Mexican National Guardsmen at their southern border doing their job and enforcing their border rather than using it as a pass-through. So there's a whole litany of things that are already out there. That's just a bunch of garbage from this White House.
Yeah. All right. I do want to talk about that Afghan commando that I mentioned who's being jailed in Texas. I mean, this guy fought with us against the Taliban. He didn't get to come over when everyone else got pulled out. And the administration's sitting around giving asylum to thousands upon thousands of migrants. And yet he's the guy sitting in a jail. So what is being done to help him?
Yeah, I mean, doesn't that say it all, right? That this total debacle that was the Afghan withdrawal, we got out all of these people except the people that were willing to stand and fight for us and die alongside my Special Forces unit and others. So, you know, rather than that process actually working, he has to traipse all the way around the world, through the Darien Gap in Panama, up through Central America, was apparently mugged, robbed, beaten several times. And then what's the thanks he gets? He gets arrested as he's coming across our border. Yet the 80, 90 other migrants that he was traveling with apparently have all been released into the interior. How the hell does that make any sense? It just makes zero sense. And, oh, by the way, his brother was also fighting alongside us, has presented all of the paperwork to show that he was at least tied to the United States. But the people that were willing to die for our fellow Americans are arrested, and people we have no idea who they are released into our cities. I mean, it's just one more evidence of how broken, it's just ass backwards how ridiculous this system is.
It's embarrassing, actually, too. Interestingly enough, there's a story in the Washington Post today about Biden aides fearing the House oversight investigation into that botched withdrawal. Explain to me what they should be worried about, what the scope that you think you guys are going to look at is.
Yeah, well, they should be worried because they know that they got it wrong. I know that the U.S. military repeatedly put in writing their recommendations, and they were completely ignored by the Biden administration. You know, they love to point at President Trump and say, well, he set up the Doha Agreement and he started this ball rolling. You know, my response to that, at the end of the day, he didn't yank everybody out. At the end of the day, he listened to his advisors who said this will be another Saigon because the Taliban aren't living up to their end of the bargain. So, look, I love how Biden also has no problem with the Paris Accords, going back into that, with the Iran deal, going back into that, tearing up all kinds of Trump-era policies. But suddenly, they want us to believe that they were handcuffed to this one. I know that there are people in uniform and that have since retired that are ready to talk. Those 13
Good.
Gold Star families deserve accountability. The suicide bomber that killed their loved ones was let out of Bagram prison just weeks prior because we had no plan for all of those most dangerous terrorists. And, oh, by the way, Bagram Air Base was just a few hundred miles from the Chinese border, where they're tripling the size of their nuclear arsenal. I mean, it just goes on and on. But the thing I want to get to the bottom of, Sean, is what did the military and the intelligence community recommend? What did they say was going to happen? And then what did Joe Biden ignore? He said the buck stopped with him. Well, we're going to pin it right on him. He has blood on his hands, and we're going to show the American people why.